Hello, everybody, and thank you for tuning in. My name is Matthew Hadawani, and I am ecstatic to be joined by football media relations and producer for the Toronto Argonauts, Chris Balenovich. Chris, how are you doing today, man?
I'm doing great, Matt. Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here, brother.
Hey, the pleasure's all on this side. So I probably butchered it again there, and you just explained it to me before I hit record, but kind of explain your position with the Argonauts.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm the manager of football media for the Argos. So basically anything and everything to do with media and media who covers the team. So I deal with them.
Okay.
So setting up interviews, right, with TSN, if Sportsnet's covering us, Toronto Sun, any blogs that cover us, radio stations, right? Any media that covers the Argos.
Mhm.
I like to consider myself sort of the intermediary between the media and our players, coaches, front office, right? So interview requests, any communication that needs to go out to the media, right? If we sign players, if we make a trade, if we're doing a community initiative, right? Press releases. So anything and everything media, that's me.
Basically the liaison between the players and all these media entities. But
exactly,
going from the beginning, your education is rooted in geography and history from when you were at Trent, and then education at the University of Ottawa, where you actually played football. Mm-hmm. How did you end up in sports?
Yeah, it's kind of a weird road, I guess, to get there.
I'll say.
Yeah, so I'm in high school. I want to be a teacher. That's what's on my mind. So I started at Ottawa, University of Ottawa, because I got recruited to play football there. So I played football there for a year. I ended up transferring to Trent University after first year. So I finished my undergrad at Trent, which is in Peterborough. Finished my undergrad. I'm expecting to go to Teachers College. So I get in at Teachers College back at the University of Ottawa. So I kind of bookend my university career there. Get my teaching degree. I worked 4 years in Niagara, where I grew up as a supply teacher. And kind of the whole time I realized that it wasn't really for me. I wasn't passionate about it.
Right.
But I stuck it out for 4 years thinking, I'll give it a shot, right? I went to school for 5 years for this. And then I kept having conversations with my mom, actually. And she was like, well, what are you passionate about? Like, because I was trying to figure out what was going to be next for me. And I just kept coming back to sports. I'm passionate about sports. So I searched on the internet a little bit, some programs, and the Durham College is a grad certificate, sport business management, 8 months, 4-month internship, 4-month in class. So signed up, 2016, went there. 4-month in class, 4-month internship with the Raptors. And then right after that, got hired by the Argos. And best decision I ever made was going back to school for sports, for sure.
It takes a certain kind of person to be a teacher. I mean, tremendous amount of patience, very task oriented. When did you kind of realize that, although obviously you didn't end up like pursuing it in the long run, but how did you kind of settle on being a teacher?
So there's a lot of my family members are in education, whether it be my mom works, for the school board back home. One of my aunts was a guidance counselor at the high school I went to. A bunch of my aunts and uncles are teachers, and you see the lifestyle they live, right? Summers off, break off, Christmas 2 weeks. So it's an incredibly rewarding job as well, right? You're shaping the youth, you're helping them learn new things. It's a great job, but then once I really got in there, it just didn't feel for me. And I guess I would have never known that unless I was thrown right into it. So I found out pretty early on, I think, that wasn't going to be the thing I do for 30 years. Mm-hmm. So I made up my mind to go back to school, and but it was an unbelievable learning experience teaching. You know how it is when you had a supply teacher, right? It was probably you walk in, you see a teacher who's not your normal teacher, and you're going crazy because you're like, all right, we're not doing work today. We're gonna party, whatever. We can do whatever we want.
And the TV wheels in on the.
There's nothing better than plugging into Bug's Life or something.
Heads Up 7-Up.
Yeah, or just playing some Bill Nye the Science Guy videos, right? Yeah. Heads Up 7-Up, a lot of Heads Up 7-Up. Actually, it's funny. So I just get out of school, get hired by the Niagara Catholic District School Board. Mm-hmm. Waiting for my first supply call. I get it. All right. It's like an automated thing. And it says French.
Oh.
and in elementary school, and I do not speak French.
They wouldn't let me take French in high school. I was
I
so
took
bad
it in
in
grade.
elementary, they wouldn't let me.
Really?
I was in general learning strategies instead of French.
Okay. So I took it, and last time I took it was grade 9 or 10.
Yeah.
So the first ever supply call I had was French elementary school. I was so nervous thinking I have to speak French, but you don't actually have to, right? Like you're playing heads up, 7 up with grade 5s. So it was an awesome learning experience for sure. Really learned a lot about myself. And you're right when it comes to patience and things of that nature when you're dealing with 30 kids going crazy. I have all the respect in the world for teachers, man. All the respect in the world, but I am so happy I'm at where I'm at right now.
After you graduated, you then served as a brand ambassador for Wasserman, which is a sports marketing and talent management company where you kind of worked for the Road to the Grey Cup. What did that experience kind of teach you about the CFL market and the fan base?
Yeah, that was kind of cool. So I was at school at Durham, and a buddy of mine knew someone who worked at Wasserman, and he was running. So the Grey Cup was in Toronto in 2016. It was at BMO Field. So there was a lot of hype. There's a lot of stuff going around. So my buddy knew someone at Wasserman who was running an activation, they call it, right? So what it was kind of right down by Skydome almost, Rogers Center. It was like a little house you walk into, it was a tent, but it was a virtual locker room. So every team had a locker, and then they brought in players from each team to kind of do autograph signings and take pictures. And you could take a picture in front of a locker with like an Argos jersey, an Argos helmet. So I was kind of just there for a few days that weekend, just kind of ushering guests in, getting them to take photos with the players and get their autograph and stuff like that. So it's kind of surreal because that was 2016. So I'm kind of working around the Grey Cup, and they're doing a ton of giveaways around. I remember getting a Grey Cup ring that they're just handing out. It's pretty plain, whatever, but it was like a paperweight. It was so heavy. And so it said 2016 Grey Cup on it. And then fast forward a year, and I'm getting you got the real Grey Cup championship ring. So it was kind of like a foreshadow or like a fate type thing, right? Where I got it a year before. It was kind of cool. But yeah, so that was really my first introduction into the CFL, and then how the Grey Cup is such a cool experience, because I think unlike the Super Bowl, where I feel it's really corporate, you need to have a lot of money to go to the Super Bowl because it's so expensive to get tickets, and it's not really. So the CFL, right? The Grey Cup, it's just every team's fan base coming together for a party, and there's no animosity. It's not like Ticats versus Argos. There's no rivalries. It's everyone there to have fun. It's a celebration of the game. And it's incredible to see, and it's incredible to be a part of. And that was kind of, my first really, my awakening to that moment, I guess you could say.
When I was talking to TSN's Matthew Shinetti last week, he kind of mentioned the same thing. It's kind of like, you see all these, east and west of Canada coming together for one sporting event that he said is uniquely Canadian, kind of like you said, how there's no corporate to it. It's just about the fans, and it's just about the game. But later you joined MLSE as a media relations intern for the Toronto Raptors. What was that experience like? And second of all, how fun was that?
That was the best. I said it at the time, and it might still be the best 5 months of my life. First of all, shout out Shinetti. I told him this before, and he always turns me down, but he was kind of the guy who got my foot in the door with the Argos. So big shout out to him.
He's great people.
He's really a good dude. So my internship with the Raptors was insane, awesome. It was the first thing the first internship I applied to in school. Didn't hear back for like a month, so I'm like, all right, no big deal. I didn't even know what media relations was. I had no idea. I was like, all right, Raptors, that sounds cool. I love the Raps. And then a month later, so maybe I get the call for an interview, and then I get the job. And that 5 months, so that was January to May 2017. Amazing. It was Jim LeBombard was the top media relations guy at the time. Rovin, Phil, Stefano, world-class organization with like Masai running things, right? Bobby Webster, unbelievable organization. And that specific media relations department are top of the line. They've won so the NBA has I think it's called the Brian McIntyre Award, where like the the NBA's top media relations team, and they've won it twice. I think they're one of only maybe 2 teams who won it multiple times. So well deserving. Man, it was such a cool experience. I can't even tell you, right? Just going, first of all, you get to go to every Raptors home game. You know, you dress up in a suit, you're feeling good. You're walking around the lot, you're going in and out of the locker room. So part of my duties after the game were to record the interview. So it might be coach's interview after the game. It might be go into the home locker room and just get sound from the different scrums going around, or in the visiting team's locker room. So it's just, you know, it's surreal. I'm standing there next to Carmelo Anthony, you know, whatever players are rolling through. It was wild, learned a lot, you know, super intensive, and you got to work your butt off, obviously, in your internship, right? And man, best experience. Incredible.
Yeah, it was probably trial by fire. I mean, you know, throw you into the deep end and see if you can swim. But you stayed in the MLSE organization after with the Toronto Argonauts as a communications coordinator. Do you think your time with the Raptors really helped you prepare you for the Argonauts?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I mean, different sports, but you know, the PR duties are basically the same. It really did, especially because when I joined the Argos in September of 2017, I was kind of, one of their guys had left about halfway through the season. So I was kind of coming in to cover for him for the rest of the season. So I liken it to an internship role again. So I was coming off an internship where I was just doing sort of intern duties, you could say. And then I was coming into a situation that was already established, and I was just picking up the slack for this other guy who left. So I was kind of, again, I felt like sort of the intern there, where these guys already know what they're doing. The season's half over, you know, they're rolling, and I'm picking up whatever slack needs to be done. So it was a really easy transition that way. And it was just another great way to learn, right? Instead of being brought in an off season, I was just, boom, the season's already going, right in the middle of it, practices every day, games every weekend. Here's how you learn. So it was, that internship definitely prepared me for what it was like to work, a real job instead of just an internship. But man, forever grateful for the friends I made at the Raptors, and for everything they taught me, because man, did they ever teach me a lot.
What's it been like working with Mike Hogan, someone who's, you know, seasoned in the industry and communications?
Oh man, this guy, Hoagie, I say this all the time, he's a walking, talking Argos encyclopedia.
100%. He'll tweet out the most obscure things about the Argonauts, and nobody would have known but him.
The stories, the things he can just remember, that he just has locked away in his mind. Stories about any Argo who ever played here, knows when they played. They scored a touchdown in the third quarter on the fourth drive. It was 2nd and 6, you know, like
temperature was outside.
It's crazy. And obviously he's been in media, you know, kind of on the other side of things for his whole career, 25, 30 years, whatever it's been, right? Fan 590, TSN, play-by-play guy for the Argos now for a long, long time. And yeah, he's we're like this. Hoagie's the best. And we play off each other really well. You know, what I might not do so great, he excels at, and then vice versa, right? Maybe what he's, you know, not as refined in, you know, hopefully I can balance him out that way. So we really, the yin and yang kind of really play off well in each other. And Hoagie and I, man, we talk every single day. We sit right next to each other. It's a really good working relationship, and we're boys, and we always will be. And, he's so valuable to the organization just because he knows the brand so well, the team so well. He knows the fans so well. He's really awesome ambassador for the team.
He really, I was just about to say that. That's exactly what he is. He's a great ambassador of the team. But you do a lot of work behind the scenes. What does a typical day-to-day look like you throughout the week?
Yeah, so, I mean, during the season, I'll roll into BMO Field, call it maybe 8 a.m., 8:30. So we have breakfast as a team. I'll have breakfast, then I'll get to the office. So our offices are at Coca-Cola Coliseum, which is right next to BMO Field. Get some work done in the morning, right? Whatever, returning some emails, getting ready for the game that weekend. write a press release if I need to. And then we'll practice for, I mean, it's different every year, for a couple hours there, say 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. So I'll go to practice because media shows up to practice, right?
Yep.
They want to see who's practicing, who's hurt, who's playing where. So there's some rules around media at practice as well. They can't film certain parts of practice because we don't want them, putting plays on TV or et cetera, or on the internet. And it's a big part of building relationships with the media, right? Seeing them every day, being at practice, just having conversations with them. If they're struggling for a story, maybe feed them something they can talk about, right? Hey, this player's milestone game's coming up, or he's playing against his former team, or some little nugget, right, that they could write a story about.
Right.
And then after practice, we have media availability. So we do that back at BMO Field. So once we get back to BMO Field, right outside the locker room, coach out pretty much speaks every day. The quarterback pretty much speaks every day. And then whatever players media want to talk to that specific day, I'll just go pull them out of the locker room. They'll chat with the media for a few minutes, get their soundbite, their story. And then it's lunchtime after that. So again, we have lunch as a team, which is awesome because the food at BMO Field is just amazing. And then it's back to Coca-Cola Coliseum. Again, it's just getting stuff ready for that weekend, that game, and emails that need to get done, press releases, stats, and then do the same thing the next day. So I always say I get paid to watch football because I'm just at practice every day, at games every weekend, flying around the country. It's a dream job.
The Argonauts are one of the oldest and most storied franchises in not just, football, but in Canadian heritage. Yeah. Do you feel any pressure being associated with all of that?
Great question. I personally don't feel any pressure with that. I think it's a badge of honor for us. I need to look it up. If Hoagie was here, he'd know the answer, but I think we're the oldest.
Oldest franchise in Canadian history.
In North America. I think in North America.
I think you're right.
Potentially, yeah. Which is, it's crazy. It's insane. And it's amazing. I think our heritage and tradition speaks for itself, right? Mm-hmm. We might not be the big fish in, the city of Toronto, like our Raptors or our Leafs, right? But our heritage and our history is so deeply rooted in this city. And it's part of the fabric of the city. And I think that's something we wear as a badge of honor. And we're super proud of it. And, one day we want to get back to, hopefully soon, we get back to the days when the Argos are packing the house and we're having Grey Cup parades like the Raptors had. And we'll get there one day at a time, especially with pinball at the helm now. We're steering the ship in the right direction, as he likes to say.
You mentioned it, but the Toronto market right now is Maple Leafs and Toronto Raptors and even the Blue Jays when they were going on that playoff run. But do you kind of as an organization you feel that you have to compete for the attention of the fans in the Toronto market?
So I think what we have, the Argos have unbelievably passionate fans. There's no question about that. They love the team so much. They're so passionate about the things we're doing. Maybe the things we're not doing, what we could do to improve. So we have a rabid fan base. It just might not be, as large of a fan base as we would like, really. And, we always talk about it and people always speculate on it that, we need to find the younger audience who can grow with the Argos and become lifelong fans. When they have kids, they pass that down to their children. Mm-hmm. And I wouldn't really say we're first of all, we're owned by the same company as the Raptors and the Leafs. So it's okay to be a fan of all these teams, right? We're not competing with the Raptors or the Leafs for fandom. We want those guys to be fans of the Raptors, the Leafs, and the Argos. And we're working hard. I know the marketing team, the ticketing team, they're doing all they can to make sure we fill BMO Field. And last year was a tough year. Obviously, our season got canceled. There's a lot that goes into that. But man, we're building this thing. Like I mentioned, pinball, that guy's going to be special when it comes to bringing fans in and new fans. And now we're signing exciting players, right? You and I talked off screen earlier about a couple guys, Martavis Bryant, who was a stud in the NFL for a while, Super Bowl winners, and Shane Ray, linebacker, Coney Ely played in the Super Bowl. Not to mention all the CFL guys we signed who are multiple time All-Stars, Charleston Hughes, Jawan Breskus,
Electric Factory.
I can go Nick Arbuckle. I can go on and on about the guys we brought in this offseason. So when I tell you we're trying to be a player in this market, or we're trying to do it right, and we're bringing in a ton of talent. So I'm excited about this season.
Flipping it back over to yourself, the CFL has very few teams, a handful of teams, and with that comes a handful of actual opportunities to get into the media. Do you find yourself ever like pinching yourself and kind of relishing the moment and realizing that, I'm only one of 9 people who have this position?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Never actually thought about it that way, but you're right. It's almost like, when they talk about NFL quarterbacks, they're always like, oh, there's 32 NFL teams, 32 NFL quarterbacks. How is there only 10 who are good, right? Or whatever it is. Yeah, it's pretty wild. And I mean, I don't know if you know the story, but kind of how I got hired, but that'll make you pinch yourself. So what happened was, I go back to Shinetti here. So when I was an intern, I remember just being at a Raptors game. Shinetti was sitting beside me and he's like, what do you want to do? After this. And I said, well, I'd love to work in football. That's my favorite sport. That'd be my dream. He goes, okay, here's 2 names, Jamie Dykstra, director of comms for the Argos at the time. And then, Aaron Gogishvili, Tiger Cats. So I email Jamie from the Argos. Hey man, I'd love to grab a cup of coffee with you. Let me know. All right. So we go grab a cup of coffee, have a nice chat. Same thing you and I are doing here.
Yep.
And then I said, when the season starts, because the CFL season hadn't started yet. When I finish my internship, I'd love to come and just shadow you for a game or volunteer for a game. Okay, great. So I go out in August to a game, and he says at the end of the game, just shadowed him all game, learning, right? One of our guys is leaving. Do you want a job? And I was like, yeah, I do. I want to.
So casual.
Just like that. 1 cup of coffee, and then I shadowed him for a game, and he was like, do you want a job? That's August. I start in September. We win a Grey Cup in November. So, I mean, it's just wild how it happened. It was luck, opportunity, all that stuff kind of came together. So you want to talk about pinching yourself? Like, I mean, come on, right? I'm the luckiest guy on the planet.
How did it feel to be a part of a Grey Cup winning team?
Crazy. Absolutely. It was so surreal. I had only started in September, and then 2 months later, I'm on the field in a blizzard, and we're lifting the Grey Cup. It was one of the most special things. Obviously, I'll never forget every second of that whole week we were in Ottawa for Grey Cup. It's like the busiest weekend, right? There's so much media to do. You're on top of practice every day. Players are still in meetings, film, the whole bit. Surreal whirlwind weekend. And then, we're playing Calgary, who's been called the best team in the league for what seems like 10 years now.
Yeah.
Won a bunch of Grey Cups, been to a bunch, and we're not favored to win. We're the underdogs. And I have a picture on the field. I got my buddy. I'm like, hey, take a picture of me on the field before the game, guys, whatever. Beautiful day. Not a cloud in the sky, no snow. Fast forward, I don't know, 20 minutes. Blizzard, absolute pouring rain. Doesn't make sense to pour rain, but just rain. Sorry,
precipitation
snow,
is precipitation.
Of snow. Yeah, that's right. It is a blizzard, snow globe city, and some of the craziest things happened in that Grey Cup. Right, 100-yard receiving touchdown. Cassius Vaughn scoop and score, like 95-yard fumble recovery, crazy stuff. Interception in the end zone to win the game. Shout out Matt Black. Man, crazy.
We've touched on it at different points throughout this interview. And obviously, the pandemic was a very, very real thing for you guys last year. How did that kind of affect your role within the organization?
Yeah, it was a tough year for sure for everyone, man. It was a different year. I mean, we didn't play. Our offseason is already pretty long if you don't make the playoffs. So I think our last game was November 2nd, 2019, and then camp starts in May.
Yep.
So, you got 6 months with no football, 7 months with no football. add on a canceled season, and it has just been, it feels like we haven't played in 5 years, or even been,
feels like it's been a long time,
at a practice in a camp, been around the guys, nothing. So yeah, it was challenging. You know, we don't play, other sports are playing, so the media coverage just isn't there, right? We're not going to get as much media coverage when we're not playing, when there's no news about CFL football. So that was a challenge for Hoagie and I. You know, we still try to pump out as much media as we could. I know once we were able to start signing guys, that helped a lot, but you weren't able to go out and do stuff in the community either, right? So it was really hard to sort of make stuff kind of out of thin air, right? So Adam Kruger, shout out to him, our social media guy, best in the league, not biased opinion. He's the best in the league. So he did an incredible job of just keeping fans involved, media on social media involved, and just doing different things on there, fun things. And yeah, it was a challenging year. I hope we don't ever have to go through it again. I hope we're on track for a season this year, but it's a thing we can learn from. You know, it was a good time to sort of reflect, because you had time to sit back, reflect. What are we doing right? What are we doing wrong? What can we do better? So that was one of the positives of, I guess, a canceled season. But yeah, we're ready to go, and we'll be better than ever.
We're starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel here, obviously, with vaccinations rolling out. But what are you most looking forward to getting back into BMO Field?
So it's the thing I missed most when I stopped playing. So when I transferred schools, at the time, I said to myself, I don't think I'll miss football. It's fine. Didn't take more than a couple months, probably. I was like, I miss football so much, but it wasn't in between the lines, right? And you hear ex-athletes, not referring to myself as an athlete, but pro athletes all the time after they're retired. What do you miss most? I miss being in the locker room.
Yeah.
And the camaraderie with the guys. And I got that back when I got hired by the Argos, right? Because you're back in the locker room, you're in that atmosphere, everyone's just chasing that one goal, win a Grey Cup. And everyone is so focused on that one specific thing. And you're back in the locker room, you're with the guys, you know, having fun. And that's what I've missed the most, right? Being in the office with Hoagie and our whole front office, Pinball, Vince, Alex, Matt, then just talking football all day, right? Or if something happens in basketball, getting to work the next day and just water cooler talk, you know, stuff like that. So it's definitely just the relationships that you built and that camaraderie with the guys and the women in the organization at front office. And that's what I miss most for sure. It's not the same through Zoom, right? We have weekly front office phone calls, and it's not the same. So that'll be the most fun when we get back.
Yeah, and you can really attest to this playing at the collegiate level, but those locker room conversations and those atmospheres, it's really where you build lifelong friends.
Completely. Couldn't agree more, especially because when you're in a collegiate locker room, it's tough to be a student athlete. You know, there's a lot that goes into, it's not just show up on Saturdays and play in the CIS or U Sports. It's practice every day, film every day. Oh yeah, then you got 5 classes to go to as well, right? So you're going through that with everyone. You're in the trenches, as they say, and it's just so easy to build relationships like that when every day you're with these people and you're going through grueling practices in the weight room. Those relationships are really forged there.
You have established yourself as a very key member of media relations and communications with the Toronto Argonauts. Do you see yourself ever venturing outside that, or any other opportunities you might want to take on within the organization?
Good question. I love it here. I mean, I grew up an Argos fan. Football is by far my favorite sport. I feel so incredibly lucky to be here. And, I just want to kind of keep pushing the envelope here and trying to get as much media coverage as we can. And, whatever opportunities come with that, with just me kind of putting my nose to the grindstone and doing my thing, then, I'll assess every opportunity that comes along. I love working in sports. I can't imagine really working at more of a normal job, right? Like 9 to 5 type thing with weekends off. And that's the thing about working in sports, right? You're working weekends, you're working nights, you're CFL, you're working throughout the summer. So all your friends are going to cottages or going on vacation, and you're working. So those might be some of the drawbacks to working in sports, but man, there are a lot of advantages and positives. And it's funny, my girlfriend's always like, I think you have the coolest job.
Yeah.
Like, you have such a cool job, and people think that, and it's true. I do. It is such an incredibly cool, fun job, and it's hard to envision myself doing anything else.
You mentioned it, that the time commitment that comes with working in sports. Game days, you don't just show up when the fans show up. You're there before them, and then you're there after them. Do you find it difficult to kind of balance your personal and your professional life at times?
I've been pretty fortunate, I think, the last few years, where I've been lucky too, where you get invited to, people get married in the summer a lot, right? Or in the nice weather, spring, fall, whatever, early fall. So I've had a lot of weddings, and they've luckily fallen during bye weeks or one of the days in the week where I had off. So I've been really lucky that way. But yeah, that will be an issue for a lot of people. And, at some point down the road, that'll be an obstacle for me as well, is that work-life balance.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, it's just that I will stress that to people all the time who are thinking about working in sports. You need to know that ahead of time. You need to know that you're going to be working on weekends at night. Your days are going to be long. They're going to be long. Game days specifically. You're going to get there before everyone else. You're going to leave after everyone else. And, we get one day off a week, usually the day after a game, right? There's no practice, so there's no media. So I'll usually take that day off. But so it's 6 days a week. But a lot of guys in our organization, the front office, equipment, video, therapists, 0 days off, 7 days a week, right? Because players are coming in for whatever they need the next day, whether it's therapy or to get some stuff with their equipment done. Obviously, the front office never sleeps, 365, 7 days a week. So yeah, it could be an issue. So far, I've been good. I've been lucky. I mean, I don't have kids or anything. I'm not married yet, so that's kind of easy. I imagine it'll get more difficult when you start bringing a family into it.
Oh, obviously.
Yeah. So, yeah. So far, so good.
Well, the words to live by are, you never work a day in your life if you love what you do.
That's
and
right.
Chris, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to meet with me today. Learned a lot about yourself, learned a lot about the media, and all in all, just a great conversation. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you for taking the time to meet with me today.
Matt, thanks for having me, man. I had a blast. I love your shirt.
I was wondering if I was going to get called out on the shirt. Damn it.
No, I love it. It's great. I'm being for real. You got to get you some Argos stuff, though. I know you're a Ticats guy. You kind of work with the Ticats.
We need to get some blue. I can be bought. My fandom can be bought.
Okay, I love it. I'll get some merch sent your way.
Appreciate it. Thank you.